Hi, everyone. This is Paul Casey, the Kenpo Karate Minute. We talk about Kenpo. Sometimes we'll talk about theories, concepts, and we have special guests that come on. And I'm really honored today to have a gentleman that is making such an impact in the Kenpo community. He is one of the up and coming leaders in Kenpo. His style of Kenpo is very much reflective of the person himself. He's making sure he keeps it real. So, would you please welcome to the show Senior Professor of the Arts, John Van Cleve. Hello, John. How are you?
Hey, Mr. Casey, thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's an honor. I've seen a lot of your posts on some of the social media pages and very intriguing, very interesting. So that's why we're having you on. John, tell us a little bit about your background so our viewers will know who you are.
Oh, okay. I started, uh, seriously started training in 1989. I started in 82, and that was there was a little weightlifting gym in our neighborhood, and in the back they had a Tracy's Kenpo group that met like twice a week, and I was 12 years old. And I was the only minor in the whole place, and the teacher uh, would take me, but I had to promise to behave like an adult. So that was my first start in this kind of ratty back room of this weight gym. They had this filthy orange shag carpet, and they had a heavy bag. This heavy bag must have had 20 feet of chain because it swung like crazy. But I loved it. I couldn't keep up with it. We couldn't afford it, and I was young and all. But in 1989, I moved into the Valley Forge area, and now I figure, oh, I'm completely on my own. I want to move. I want to start doing martial arts again. And just out of just luck, I ended up calling Dennis Knacker's school, and I started with him in 1989. And at that time, he was a 6th-degree black belt that he got from Grandmaster Parker. And I started training with him. And then in 1991, I met Joe Lewis and Dennis Knacker, my teacher to this day. I've had the same teacher from day one. Is his highest ranking black belt at 9th degree. So Joe Lewis is a huge part of our system, a big part of what we teach. We can't emphasize enough how important Joe Lewis is to the Knacker karate system. And so kickboxing has always been a part of the Knacker system. So I got that from the very beginning. And then in 1990, I'm going to say maybe 1995, I met Grandmaster Dr. Mung Ji at a camp, and I began my training with him, which I'm under one of his top black belts now as a student. So the Knacker system is the primary martial art that I study, as well as Joe Lewis fighting systems, and I got a 3rd-degree black belt with Joe Lewis on that. And I'm working on my black belt and maybe take my black belt test in Bondo this year. So, and I've been teaching professionally since I'd say 1995, yeah, maybe 95, 96. I've been teaching professionally, and I teach, I'd say, at least 4 days a week, 2 to 3 classes a day. And I am as enthusiastic about it now as I was then. I love to teach martial arts. I believe in what it can do for people. My enthusiasm for it is probably stronger now in my 50s than it was, when I was 18 or 19 years old. And I'm also a big enthusiast of judo and Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I enjoy it. It's a great martial art to train. I like to get in there and, roughhouse a little bit, and kickboxing and studying the weapons. I love martial arts, period. I look at all the different styles out there that they all have something to offer. They really do. And some have some things to offer that you might not get, in another system or from another teacher. But this love of knowledge and skill is what I really got from my teacher. Mr. Knacker is a big one on skill. We always say that the Knacker karate system is a skill-oriented martial art. So our emphasis is on skill development. And Mr. Knacker breaks it down into this: speed, power, accuracy, timing, and attitude. And those are the main things that we're going for, when we train our students. So from the very beginning, I had a very eclectic kind of a martial arts philosophy and a way of training. So as an orange belt, I'm learning, long form one and snapping twig. And at the same time, I'm learning leg kicks and spinning elbows from Joe Louis. So I never had that like pure Kenpo experience. I mean, as a white belt, we have boxing gloves on and we're throwing uppercuts and hooks and doing things like Muay Thai. So my martial arts background is really kind of all over the place with different kind of methodologies, and that's why I teach the way that I do. Just being exposed to all these top-notch instructors really influenced me majorly, and I've been teaching professionally since the early mid 90s, and I'm still doing it, and I love it as much today as I did then. And yeah, that's about it for me.
Thank you so much for sharing it. It sort of sounds something like when Mr. Parker was creating the system. I always use the analogy because I live in Las Vegas. Everybody loves Las Vegas buffets, okay? Because if you go to any of the casinos, they have such a layout that you'll never see. I mean, if you go to a Chinese restaurant and they have a buffet, you know what you're going to get. You go to an American restaurant, in the morning for breakfast, you know what you're going to get. You go into Las Vegas and you go in the buffet and you get everything. I mean, there's Italian, Chinese, south of the border, American, there's pastry, there's anything you can possibly. Parker looked at it. It's sort of along that line. You take a little bit of the best, and he created a fighting system, as he said, organized dirty street fighting. And that was a quote that he used when was interviewed by, I think it was a magazine, very well respected, when he was talking. Because honestly, people come into your school, and I've had this discussion with others about what's the purpose of what the student comes in, and the good instructors, and as obviously you are with the success you've had, you do a quick evaluation of what the goal is of that student. And I mean, let's face it, John, people come in there because they don't want to get beat up, injured, or killed. I'm serious. Now, self-confidence will ensue, especially if it's from the teacher like yourself. But the thing is that you want to make sure that student walks out there and they understand, at least they have acknowledging that there's dangers out there and they have to be aware of it. And we don't
absolutely.
That 10 factor. So I think one of the things is you've ratcheted up the intent of what the student is coming in there. So listen, we're learning these drills to improve, our physibility of our skills as well as our mindset. But we have to be real. I mean, I broke it down. So we have some more. So there is something you have coined, and I don't mean that disrespectfully. You have a term that you use, and you call it Category 6.
Yeah, Category 6 Kenpo.
Okay. Can you sort of just give us a little bit of an outline of what that is?
Yeah. Well, first of all, Category 6 Kenpo is not a new system of Kenpo. It's not a different kind of Kenpo. What it is, what Category 6 means is the system that we study, and this is also for Kenpo too, we have 6 categories of basics, stances, foot maneuvers, kicks, blocks, hand strikes. And the 6th one, specialized moves and methods, locks, chokes, others, etc. And I sort of put it together that Category 6 would be everything outside of those first 5 fundamental basics. So we need to learn how to stand. We need to learn how to move. We need to learn how to kick. And that includes knees too. When we say kick, we mean knee strikes and everything. We need to learn how to block. That includes trapping, parrying, slipping, catching, absorbing. And we need to be able to hand strike. And that's, fists, elbows, finger shots. So in that 6th category, we put all that together. And the way we study the techniques is really so Category 6 Kenpo is really just a cool name that I give the way that I teach. Like, it's not a style or anything like that. It's more of a method. I'm doing a seminar here at the end of the month. And what I'm going to do in the seminar is I'm going to teach the people there this sort of like method of looking at the material and training it and teaching it to your students. So rather than try to teach some different techniques that I can say that I made up, which I haven't, we can just look at it a lot deeper. So yeah, Category 6 Kenpo is my teaching method, and the emphasis is on performance. Like you said about the students coming into the school, I truly believe that the martial arts can help people. It really can. The question is, can we really help people with a one size fits all curriculum, a one size fits all training method? So, like if somebody were to ask me what makes a school a good school, it's really sort of two things right off the bat. One is the training method, right? How do you train? Like, do you have good drills? Do you work on your, your accuracy and your? Do you really pay attention to those things? And then the second is the training philosophy. Like, do you train hard? Are you willing to see that you don't do everything 100%, and rather know than have this like false sense of security that you're better at this than you realize? I was always told that the goal should be to be better at martial arts than you think you are, right? Rather than not be as good as you think you are. So it really boils down to hard work. So if we have a school that has a good training method and a good training philosophy, when the individual comes in, you can look at that individual and you can, like when people come into the school, I just listen to them. I don't run sales pitches on people. My philosophy is you inquire about the school, let's get together and talk. And if it works out and you want to work with me and I can work with you, then let's take this first step and do some introductory lessons. It's not a matter of let's get as many people in the school as possible, make as much money as possible, as quickly as possible, and who cares if they quit. My business model, if you will, is to really teach, like really teach, be more concerned with the map than the phones, be more concerned with the student's individual welfare than, some kind of external money-making thing. Like the emphasis goes there first. So when a person comes in, let's suppose this person is older. And I have some people come in, they're in their 50s and 60s, and they haven't taken very good care of themselves. So they cannot, I have some really good black belts that are what you would just, they will remind you of Grandmaster Trejo. I mean, not as good as him, but the hand strikes and the bumping, the boxing in there. Where if these same black belts were required to do a spinning hook kick, they couldn't be black belts. Well, just because they can't do a spinning hook kick because of physical limitations doesn't mean they can't be made effective in other ways. So a one-size-fits-all curriculum, I don't think really helps the students to really learn and really understand. It's more than about knowing all the moves, like who knows the most techniques. The emphasis on knowing the moves versus their performance. And that's what category 6 Kenpo really starts to. All right, let's look at the performance. All right, we're going to do leaping crane. Let's get some focus mitts and let's test that middle knuckle strike. Let's see how fast we can do it and how accurately we can do it. And then we'll get some kind of a training method, usually a focus mitt, and we'll put it on the hand and we'll have that represent, the inside of the elbow. And we'll have the person jam that hand in there, and you're going to know if you can hit that in good timing or not, because your partner is going to try to take that focus mitt and pop you in the forehead. And it's safe, but I think it's more realistic because you get a good sense of timing. We have an opponent in front of you. One of my criticisms of the way Kenpo is taught, right? Let me say this first. I think Kenpo is a brilliant martial art. I absolutely love it. Of all the martial arts I study, it's my absolute favorite. Grandmaster Parker was an absolute genius.
I agree.
If he were still alive, he'd be a well sought after MMA consultant. Seriously, because of his ability. You know him better than I did. He when he passed away, I was like a purple belt. So I don't really have any experience with Grandmaster Parker, but from what I know about him and listening to him teach and reading what he wrote, I really believe he would look at MMA and he'd figure some stuff out, and the principles that he would put into effect, you'd see them in the octagon. I'm not saying Kenpo techniques, but Kenpo principles applied to a specific range, which is kind of what MMA is, right? You have a specific range. It's like a boxing range, your kickboxing range. And then as the opponent gets closer, they may clench. And then there's clench fighting, or they may go down. Somebody gets a takedown, and now we're ground fighting. Grandmaster Parker would take just the distances alone, and he would come up with something brilliant. the people would use. I can't think of anything, but he
That's
would
all
think
right.
of something.
Well,
Yeah,
you know,
that
at
would be
least you're
beautiful.
stimulating. The best thing about it, John, is that you're stimulating thought. Mr. Parker's key element of the success of why he was so influential is he would say, use your mind, think. You
Yeah,
know, these are just outlines. A lot of people get caught up in, if you're going to do the Ed Parker system, you have to do exactly as it's written. He would look at you and scoff at you and say, no, you're not getting it. There was a lot of duplicity in some of the techniques, but they were key master moves that were effective, that could be used. And he gave it different approaches. So you're on the right path on that. I like to reference books. I've been using volume 4 of Infinite Insights, chapter 7, and it talks about the 21 principles of Kenpo. And right what you said, posture, balance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, timing, accuracy, all these things. Some people have acronyms they use for that. And I've had conversations with a Grandmaster Chuck Sullivan, who was one of Mr. Parker's first black belts. The essence of it is this is real combat we're talking about. And so the good thing is that your experience has led you to this path of saying, I've taken a little bit from this buffet here, here, and here, and have collectively, and I have them in my toolbox. Parker used to say it's his toolbox. And there's always the always famous reference when he and Lee were talking, Bruce Lee, that is, and they said they were both given a block, and they would chip away with it, with what they envisioned. And Lee would say, this is what I think, and discard that was not necessary, okay, or not useful. Parker says, no, I would save that, put it aside, because there will be a point when I might need that. Now, I might be splitting hairs in that analogy with what he's saying, but the point is that you're bringing to the table what is effective for that person because of limitations.
yeah,
And honestly, John, there are no limitations in your mind. We know that. It's your physical abilities. So you'll find a new way, a new path, a new direction. And what somebody else thinks you have a limitation is really to your advantage, especially if it's in a street confrontation. So thank you for watching the Kenpo Minute. We hope you enjoy it, and please come back and visit us again. Thank you very much.